Xenophon was a Greek military leader who lived around 450 BC and became known as one of classical Greece's greatest political philosophers. Political philosophy is similar to ethics in some ways, but where ethics thinks about the ways individuals behave or should behave, political philosophy thinks about the ways that society behaves or how it should be best organised. Xenophon was a student of Socrates, but he made the unusual decision of choosing a life in the military rather than sitting around and asking questions about things. But the combination of military experience and a Socratic education put Xenophon in a good position to travel the world examining different nations and writing about their different political structures. Back in those days, there wasn't actually any country called Greece. It was a region containing several independently governed city-states, and they all had different systems of government. Athens, where Xenophon came from, was famously a type of democracy, but Xenophon didn't spend much time writing about it because he was much more interested in systems with strong autocratic leaders such as Persia and Sparta. Xenophon's reputation in the Athenian army was so great that he was talent scouted by the Persian prince Cyrus the Younger, who was building an army to help him overthrow his brother the king. That campaign didn't go very well, but it nevertheless resulted in Xenophon developing a powerful admiration for Cyrus. He saw Cyrus as an exemplary leader, and in fact his campaign to overthrow the Persian king was well on the track to be successful. The only reason it failed was because Cyrus accidentally got knocked off his horse and died. Since the entire point of the invasion was to install Cyrus as king of Persia, there was really no reason not to just go home. But now that they were leaderless and stuck in enemy territory, Xenophon assumed control of the army himself. He saw a lot of similarities between running a military and running a country, and he appreciated political systems that were militaristic and whose leaders ruled like generals. And Xenophon found what he thought was a perfect example of this when he moved to Sparta. Unlike Athens, Sparta was an absolute monarchy, but it wasn't as simple as one guy being just allowed to do what he likes while harvesting all the money. Life in Sparta was regimented down to the smallest detail, and there were rules governing everything from what time you were allowed to eat dinner or go to bed, or whether you were allowed to lend another man your horse. But the Spartans didn't think of themselves as slaves. As well as being authoritarian, Sparta was also egalitarian. Everyone was the same, at least allegedly, and nobody had a higher or lower status than anyone else, not even women, which was pretty unusual for the time period. So even though they had an absolute monarch, the society of Sparta was essentially collectivist, as the laws, strict as they were socially enforced. They didn't need a police force because the entire citizenry was also the military. Basically, everyone was a cop. Xenophon admired this. He believed that the ideal political structure is one with an absolute ruler whose power is earned through exemplary behaviour. Like a good military commander, the citizens want to follow orders because of how much they admire the leader. In turn, it's the responsibility of the society to keep the leader happy so that they can lead properly, and in an ideal society, they will want to do so. Xenophon's ideal political structure can possibly best be described as a happy tyranny. Although Xenophon was considered one of the most important political writers of the ancient world, his philosophy doesn't get brought up a lot in modern philosophy classrooms, perhaps due to the sketchy stuff it's been used to justify. Xenophon was one of the primary influences of Machiavelli, and more notably the founding fathers of the United States, who used it as the philosophical justification for, well, the American slave system, with its dubious notions of benevolent masters and happy slaves. Considering that Sparta isn't exactly the first thing you think of when you picture antebellum Georgia, it's safe to assume this isn't exactly what Xenophon was going for. If you only subscribe to 3 Minute Philosophy on YouTube, then you're missing out on episodes because the home of 3 Minute Philosophy is now on Substack. That's where you'll find more episodes like Socrates and Pythagoras and the Paradoxes of Zeno, plus there are full transcripts of every episode. Go to this URL, click on subscribe, enter your email address, and you'll receive an email every time I drop a new episode. It's free to watch most recent video and read the transcript, but if you'd like to support the project with a paid subscription, then you can watch every episode in the archive, plus bonus material, plus I will read your name out at the end so you can hear what it sounds like in my funny voice. Anyone who hasn't made a Substack account under your preferred username, I'm just going to read the first part of your email since I don't know who you are. Thank you very much for your subscription. David Smith, Emilio Alvarez, Seric8920, Stephen Fair, Tony Saavedra, Steve Black, and Paul Jarvinen.